My name is Steve Chappell. I'm the Director of Trading Systems Development here at VectorVest. Been with VectorVest now going on 19 years. Been a great ride. I've done a lot of good work, and VectorVest has been great to me, and so that's why I'm still here and plan to be here for 19 more, God willing. And let's move on to my picks, I suppose.
All right.
So, yeah, make it easy. Just click on RV. So Glenn mentioned earlier that relative value is upside potential, right? So some of my picks will start gravitating up there a little bit. Makes Vertex go to the top anyway. Mm-hmm. Vertex is a very interesting company. They do, they've really got a market cornered. I don't know how many people know anything about Vertex, but they have really the only legitimate drug on the market for cystic fibrosis. It's a huge market. And they're looking to expand into the European markets actually this year with that blockbuster drug that they have. So they're likely to hit a very good growth patch here in the not too distant future. And just to tell you how far ahead they are, there's nobody even with a solid phase 2 clinical trial in that space. Now Vertex does more than that, but that's the main. That's why their RV is so strong, and their growth, if you look at the earnings growth rate, it's coming in at 29% a year there on the right-hand side. Might want to point that out. And of course, they make $7.95 to boot, so it's a high growth on what is already a high amount of earnings power. So that's what brought Vertex to my attention, along with the chart. It's got great upside potential. It's super safe. Anything over 1.4 is really good, really strong in terms of VectorVest scoring on safety, and the relative timing. It's not too hot, not too cold. Maybe the porridge is just right here. And I think when we look at the chart, we'll see that. So I'm going to go right to the chart on the one that I just talked about. Try to keep the stream of thought going. So with Vertex, here's the look at the last 3 months. Obviously, it's been a good time in the stock market. This wouldn't be one of the stocks that I would say has catapulted the most, in what's been just a super strong and great market to be invested in. But if you look at the bottom there in just the last 3 months and you start looking at that blue shaded area, that is the forecasted earnings per share number from VectorVest. Now it looks at a trailing 12, and it looks at forward projections from all of the consensus analyst estimates for not only the end of this year, but also the end of next. And then we crunch all that data and we produce a 1-year calendar lead of where earnings is headed. So it's not where earnings is today compared to last quarter. It's actually giving you a window into the future, if you will. It's giving you an advantage, over the average bear, in that if earnings is likely to continue to head higher for the next year, what do you think investors are going to think about that, right? Well, they're going to like that, won't they? And so all things being equal, market stays stable to up. Vertex will have an exceptionally strong likelihood to be a market leader, okay? And so the other thing that I like about it, here's one thing I don't like about it. We're starting to flatten out a little bit too much for my liking on price. But again, I was going through a lot of the news feeds and the news wires and looking about what's coming down the pipe, and also trusting VectorVest earnings per share. A lot like that stock you were looking at in your 3, Glenn, where I think it was Boston Beer, where the stock was going sideways and the earnings was going up.
Right.
So you're kind of in that phase right now with Vertex. So could we get some further sideways action here for a little while? Maybe so. But at some point, earnings matters. You're catching it on relatively the low side, middle to low side of the current range that it's been in. So I think it's a fairly low risk proposition. I wouldn't buy it today. It's on weakness. Maybe you could have thought about it early on. Wouldn't have been a terrible decision, honestly. On an up day, I like this one. I like it for the reasons I mentioned. I think they're gonna have a pretty good growth spurt through the summertime. This is sizzling summer stocks.
Yeah, say that 10 times fast.
All right, you guys go ahead.
I like the trade. I like that it might be cooling off right now, but just like Steve brought up with the Boston Bear, as that sideways move is going, earnings are still running. Earnings really is the engine that drives the stock's price higher. And, just like we can see bullish or bearish divergences, I'm not quite calling this a divergence, but Steve is right. At some point, earnings matter. All right, and it's still rising. RT is falling. That's because price moves RT. RT does not move price. So as the price pulls back a little bit, RT is going to fall. But RT is still above the value of 1. Even for the majority of this 3-month period, the stock has been in an uptrend. You can't deny that as well. It may be cooling off a little bit, but earnings is saying the company is still forecasting earnings out by this time next year should be almost at $8. So I do still like the pick.
I'm looking at it as the wedgeinator here, right? So the aggressive entry for me is if I draw the top trend line, right? To break through that. And again, you could use your building technique.
I draw it
If you don't like that, if you want to be a
from
little
the
bit more
second one
prudent, then you could just use that prior swing high. That's the nice resistance level for that formation. And that would give you a couple more bars to be more confident.
Yeah. I can see that.
Jim?
Mr. Todd?
Yeah, well, this is a stock that we see often in the retirement coaching group and retirement searches, ruler stocks. It's always near the top, premier growth stock. So given where the relative safety is, if I look, I'm just eyeballing some self-imposed support level there. I'd buy it. Well, maybe not now because the market's coming in a little bit, but anytime the market's rising, this is a top stock in the VectorVest program. As long as the market's rising, I have no problem getting into this stock.
You know what else is interesting about it is when you look at pharmaceutical stocks, I challenge you to go through the database to find pharmaceutical stocks that's got rising earnings like this.
No, not with an RS like
That's
that. You're
absolutely right. So
Very
this
few.
is unique in that space from a pharmaceutical situation.
Yeah.
This is one of the better pharmaceutical companies in the database from a fundamental standpoint.
Yeah, the only other one that comes to mind is Regeneron.
Regeneron, yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah,
That's the
but-
other one that comes up for us
But
too.
yeah, very, very high caliber. Relatively safe pick.
Okay.
I didn't step out on many limbs this month. Let's go back to viewers. Excellent. So next one is AMD, I guess. All right, so I went from maybe one of my safest picks to one of my more speculative. So you can see the price here is 58. The current value is 36. So some of you might raise a few alarm bells. Well, Steve, the first one you picked was slightly undervalued. Now you got one that's you're paying a premium for. Well, we like what we're going to see next. People are willing to pay that premium right now. You still have one of the higher upside potential marks by way of RV on the entire list, and that's generated from mainly two things. There are some other small things involved here, but mainly you're again going to focus in on the earnings and the earnings growth rate. So here with AMD, I really like NVIDIA, okay? I think NVIDIA is the no-brainer pick kind of in the whole space. I don't think that's news to anybody, certainly at this table and probably in the audience. But what I like is AMD still has yet to perform quite as strongly, and they're working on about 2 times earnings growth. So I think they might play a little catch-up here, is what I might suggest. And VectorVest numbers are backing that up. And then primarily that's where I get my analysis from. So I should say in the forefront, VectorVest is telling me that versus the other way around. So, again, I like it from the growth perspective of stocks of similar caliber. I think that gal, her last name is Sue, I think.
Sue who?
She has totally turned that company around. Totally turned that company around. Let's look at the graph. So let's go to AMD. Excellent. It's hitting a new high today. Today is kind of a breakout bar. I'd like to see a little bit more conviction. Glenn, I'm going to focus on the things that we have down there here in a second, but let's put volume on really quick. Does he have a volume on there? Just add it. I just wanted to eyeball that. Well, it looks like it's going to be on above average volume, at least above average of what we've had here recently. So I do like the move today. If that was on light volume, I'd be a little concerned that we're off the highs today. But with the heavy volume there, I'm feeling a little bit better about that breakout bar that's underway. Now you'll see that if Glenn kind of takes his cursor back through the chart, you'll see how we've hit some high watermarks up in this neighborhood a couple of times already. These are zones, not specific price points. So it is still trying to push through that zone. I like it even better tomorrow on a higher open. If we look at the other subgraphs that we have there, relative timing is increasing in terms of strength. We like that. Even Glenn likes that one.
I do like that. Don't say anything, Jim. Keep your mouth shut. Keep it moving. Keep going, Steve.
Earnings is rising nicely. Of course, we already talked about the earnings growth rate. I don't know how many people realize you can plot earnings growth rate. I really love stocks who not only their earnings is rising fast and consistently across the chart, but also the earnings growth, even if it's a recent development like the last 3 months. So, because remember, that's a window into the future. And that's what matters the most. Not so much what's in the past, but what's coming down the pipe. So I love AMD for all those reasons mentioned, and you guys are free to add value.
I think that I drew, just eyeballing it, a level of resistance. And key word there, Steve said, is a zone. It's not a pinpoint. It is a zone. That's a beautiful level of resistance. What I'm looking for now to see, I got a little bit, if I'm looking at today, I got a little bit of give back today. Wick at the top. Looks like it's trying to test that level of support. That's fine. Let it. If you're in it, let it be. The stock is above the 20-day. It broke out. If you jumped on board after it gapped up, you're fine. It may test that level of support, that zone that I just drew. Let it. And if it breaks back below, then just be careful with it. But if it tests that level of support and bounces back up, you're in a good situation. Breaking out or buying on a breakout is probably a good thing to do. The stock is saying, I'm tired of sitting in the sideways range. And it breaks out, that's a good opportunity. RT is moving up. It's garnering some momentum. The earnings and the growth, you can't deny that. So I do like that. Don't be afraid if it tests that level of support. Let it. It'll be fine. Anybody else?
Negative.
You scared them all away.
How did I scare them? What did I do?
No, I was just letting Todd go
Oh,
first.
okay.
No, I
My
got
memory
a lot to
is
say
that
on this one.
they were an early leader in the next generation chips.
That's right.
So they're still in the game,
Yep.
particularly as we go to the next Internet of Things push.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. This is one of my top 5 favorite stocks in the entire database. The reason for it is, and what I've been thinking about as we're talking about all these stocks, what everyone has to realize, it's still your objective of what you're looking to do, right? Are you looking for a day trade, a swing trade? Are you looking for a retirement portfolio stock? So keep that in mind as we talk about these. But AMD has got to be close to a dozen over the last year covered call trades we've placed on AMD that have been profitable. You get a good premium on this stock. It has its ups and downs. It's not one of those take-off parabolic growth stocks, but just a great stock to sell covered calls against. A great stock to trade. I love it.
You ready?
Yeah, I had something else I wanted to add there, but I think we pretty well hit it. Another update solves a lot of problems here.
I agree with that.
Oh, the thing that's coming to mind, guys, you might see a lot of the candles on some of these stocks getting soft. I think that's a reflection of market action, is it?
The market is coming in a bit, although the NASDAQ is still up fairly.
Yeah.
The NASDAQ's up 60 points right now. The market, the S&P and Dow are coming in. So
it's the 5G
yeah,
revolution,
yeah,
Jim.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
watching
the
news.
5G revolution.
And
If
I
you're
just
good-
want to
yeah.
comment really quickly. If there's anybody out there from the Tuesday coaching sessions, this was stopped out with just under a $900 gain on our last covered call trade. It didn't. We still owned it at the end of yesterday's session, but it closed out and chalk up another profit on an AMD covered call.
All right, in keeping with the 5G revolution and the strength of the NASDAQ coming back, right? Hopefully that'll remain through the summer. We'll see.
Yeah, it's still up today, that's for sure.
We'll see what happens.
Guys, we don't know what's coming down the pipe, right? We got to go with what we see now.
I'm watching all the fix.
I'm going to go with another 5G, maybe an even better play, really.
Okay.
I like this stock a lot, and I've done this one before on Hot Stock Picking Panel. It's called Terra Dine. Symbol TER. Current price is weighing in at $76.73. VectorVest starts to shine a light right away with providing you a value, what we feel the stock is currently worth. That's currently coming in at $92 a share, so it's nicely undervalued. Hard to find good stocks at what 10? How many years we've been in this bull market now? I can't even remember since '09.
Yeah.
So, how many years is that, Glenn?
Stop.
11.
Don't see. It's math. I don't want to add it. Don't mess with me. And Todd is back there cracking up. I know Todd is. Shut up. Leave me alone. And Todd, I knew Todd was going to crack up as soon as you
I was
said
going to
that.
loan you a finger if you want.
11 years. 11 years if you take out the pandemic, right? But you know, in VectorVest we actually have seen significant deterioration in forward earnings, and so we're starting to enter into bear market scenarios in VectorVest. But you know, point being, it's hard even after the pandemic because we're almost back to we're at the all-time high for the NASDAQ, aren't we?
We are.
Oh my goodness, you believe that? 5G, you know, and so with that kind of information, it's hard to find a great stock that's trading under its value. I mean, it's super difficult. And here on this list, a lot of you guys did great, you know, picking them. So here's another one. Tremendous upside potential by way of RV, 142. Relatively safe, I would say. That's a very good rating. Anything between 1.25 and 1.4 is very good. Anything over 1.4 is excellent. Okay, so it's in that very good range. In terms of timing, it's on fire. You know, it's I think you'll see it's under a little tiny mini pullback right now, but has been on fire overall. Again, strong growth, pretty good earnings. Not quite as strong as where we've been, but the most exciting part about them is their new technology that's coming out. It's supposedly 2 times faster in terms of memory speed than the technology that they put out there prior. And they figure to factor into the 5G revolution based on that kind of information very strongly. So let's look at the chart. And so here's Terra Dine. Now, one of the better upward trending charts here that we've seen, and we've seen some really good ones, it's at least hanging in there, you know, and so I like that. You know, that's kind of the first thing that strikes my eye. You've had a little bit of a 2-day pullback. I love that as well when you start to hit some resumption. So here again, I don't typically like going full-size position when you're staring prior swing high resistance right in its face. You know, in other words, that high watermark of the red candle is something that we'd like to push through here. I think that could be remedied with some kind of a strong market day tomorrow. But until it, you know, I would either consider waiting until you break that high, or again, like we did with Todd, starting small. I almost don't like starting small here because you're right there.
You're button up.
Yeah, but if you look at the bottom there, while you don't see some of the smooth and steadiness of the forward earnings forecast by VectorVest, what you do see is more of, you know, kind of, well, I hate to say explosion. It doesn't quite fit that category. It's gone from 318 to 324?
Yep. What is that?
My failing eyesight.
6 cents. I know that.
About 6 cents?
Yeah, 6 cents.
On $3. All right, so it's not setting the world on fire, okay? But it's hitting a pretty good growth spurt here again. I mean, you know, relative timing looks to be trying to get back and contend with high watermark there. So I don't really see any true divergence in terms of, you know, you have to have a couple of swings to actually quantify a divergence. It's on the rise again. It could go to a new high. So there could be no divergence there at all right now. So that's what I see.
I like the idea of getting in. I would prefer, because it's so close to that level, that zone of resistance, I really would like to be a little higher than the high to make sure I'm buying into a rising stock. But everything else about it, you know, you'll hear us say on more than one occasion that a graph is a picture's worth 1,000 words. What you see is what you get. This is a 3-month picture. I'd feel real comfortable jumping on board with this stock. It's not huge in volatility. It's moving up nice and smoothly. RT, earnings per share, right in line with it. So I like it. I like the pick.
If you don't like it, you can say so.
No, I'm not saying nothing bad anymore ever.
price action's still in trend, right? And in terms of value, right, you're consolidating at much weaker earnings performance. So
Yeah.
let's go big.
Just another stock in our retirement portfolio. Great stock. I'd buy it today.
I took your place today, Jim.
You did, man. I got to go before you from now. But
All right, so let's
just another great stock. We sold calls against it, but you know, just one of those stalwarts that we.
You want
have
to
in
switch
there.
for a month? I'll do retirement services, and you do the jockey. You do the trading.
I don't know if they want me in there for that, but I just love the stock. You know, it's a high RS stock. Look at the earnings. It is, again, what's your objective in owning it? Are you short-term trading it? If you are, then make sure it's rising in price. I just like the fact, again, if we're talking about trading the stock, it's trading higher than yesterday's high. That's usually as far as I go. I don't need it above that high, you know, the high that's marked. I just need it higher than yesterday's high in a rising market. But
I like it.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Now, if you're new to the software or would like refresher information about the software, click on this Getting Started video right here. Thanks to all of your input, here's a YouTube video that we think would be perfect for you. Click right here. If nothing else, folks, just hit the subscribe button right here.